In the back streets of one of Hungary's poorest areas, music has become the weapon of choice for many disenchanted locals. And it's here we meet Dope Man, one of the stars of the country's burgeoning hip-hop and gangster rap scene. Born on Skid Row, he grew accustomed to life's hard knocks. Now an avid boxing enthusiast, he's learned to hit back, and his anger is directed at one man, Hungarian President Viktor Orbán. The head of the populist right-wing government is the inspiration for Dope Man's music, which has shades of NWA's and Public Enemy's scathing commentaries on a corrupt and prejudiced system. Just a few days ago, the disgruntled social poet finished a new track, which comes down hard on Orbán and the entire Hungarian government.
All the governments of the last 20 years, they were crooked and crappy. But this government is like putting the point on the I. So they are just finishing the job. They want to take all the control and they want to be in power, but they don't have any kind of answers for the problems of Hungarian people.
Elnök úr, mondd, mi van veled? Hova tűnt belőled el a tisztelet? Amivel szolgálni kezdted a nemzetet? Hát nem erre tetted az életet? Mondd, mikor jött el az a pillanat, hogy a pénzért cserébe föladtad az elveket és a lelkedet. Eladtad a csém a zöldöknek. Tudod, először jutottál a parlamentbe. Én tudom, hogy sok volt a munka benne. Te voltál a szabadságharcos, most meg a szabadság ellen harcol.
With rating agencies downgrading Budapest's credit rating to junk status, bond yields stand at over 9% as investors flee the forint. Hopes are now pinned on a cash injection from the IMF.
The worst case scenario clearly is no agreement with the IMF and then in the end a default of the country, which I think is very unlikely to happen. What they primarily need is re-establishing trust and confidence in the country, in the government policy and in this market. And they have lost that trust in the last years.
European Union finance ministers opened the way to cut cohesion funds to Budapest over budget slippage, while the European Commission's launched several infringement procedures against the Orbán government. Many now fear the independence of Hungary's central bank will be compromised if plans to merge it with financial regulators go ahead.
The government has tried to find a solution to finance debt and the budget deficit. They found 36 billion euros, the entire monetary reserves of the Hungarian National Bank. The government would like to get to this money, and that's why they want to limit the independence of the Hungarian National Bank.
In a show of cooperation, the Orbán government have indicated they will go along with changes to bring their legislation more in line with EU principles, as this government official reiterates.
We guaranteed, as I've announced myself, the independence, the autonomy of the central bank is sacrosanct. Nobody wants to touch it.
But many worry Hungary is sliding from a liberal to an authoritarian state, as these protests in January show. In response to this, the country's right-wing movement organised a pro-government demonstration just a few days later. Cornel Arok, one of the leaders of a recently founded civil rights movement, has come forward to criticise Hungary's governing Fidesz party for what he sees as unfair changes in the voting law and interference with the judicial system.
All the judges with the best knowledge about laws and regulations, who have the most experience, will be forced into early retirement. This will impact between 200 and 300 of them, meaning all the courts will be filled with young judges. The situation will worsen if the experienced ones are sent away and young judges, who are probably close to Fidesz, move in. It's no good at all.
Again, this is sacrosanct. Nobody is trying to touch the independence and autonomy of the judiciary.
While the European Commission's infringement procedure against Hungary goes ahead, some are resorting to more extreme ways to voice their discontent. In the light of recent scandals involving TV managers, these journalists camped outside public TV headquarters have been on hunger strike since December. They believe the state is exerting too much influence over the media and believe censorship and political manipulation are already evident.
We continue the hunger strike, as you all know, because those who falsify the information, the news, they are still in this building.
On the 2nd of January, there was a huge demonstration against the government, but in the main news of the Hungarian televisions, there wasn't shown any protesters.
There have been political influence all the time, middling political parties and governments in the public media. They considered public media as their media, a state propaganda tool, but what have changed with the media law and with the new government, that they not just try to have favorable coverage for them, but they are falsifying the facts, falsifying information, which is just unprecedented.
A Facebook campaign called 1 Million for the Freedom of Press in Hungary is one of the leading movements behind the recent mass demonstrations against the government, with another planned for March.
As for the public service media, the reasons are quite clear. Political appointees are working for the government and they are doing a party media that is more or less clear. They are falsifying news, they are retouching people out from the images.
Attila Mong is an investigative journalist who's at the centre of a political storm after publishing a critical letter from the European Commission President to the Hungarian Prime Minister.
Menacing journalists with criminal investigation because of they were doing their jobs, and menacing, threatening sources with criminal investigation can be dangerous.
The planned closure of an anti-Orbán radio station has been the catalyst for yet another rally. So is the Prime Minister trying to silence his critics, or is it just another coincidence? This senior editor at Club Radio, who's preparing one of the last broadcasts before the station's forced to close, is in no doubt.
It's a political takeover everywhere, in the media, in the judiciary, in all parts of society. The government, with its two-thirds majority in the parliament, wants to turn this country into a practical one-party state. Plus, they have stripped the only independent critical radio station, Club Radio, that's where we are speaking now, of its license, frequency license. So we will close in some weeks. Practically, it's the silencing of a free and independent voice.
But there are still broadcasts to be made, and today one of Hungary's main opposition leaders is making a guest appearance on the station's phone-in talk show. So what does he think about the shutdown?
The bad and unorthodox policy of the Prime Minister led to this situation in Hungary, which is very dangerous. Well, actually, for us, the most important thing that we should reach this kind of safety net, what the European Union and the IMF can provide to Hungary. So that's why we urge the government to have this agreement with these two players in as short as possible, because that's the real interest of the Hungarian economy and the Hungarian people, of course.
While the economic outcome looks grim for Hungary, the PM has opened a very special exhibition in the National Gallery. Entitled Heroes, Kings and Saints, the paintings depict Hungary's long history of war and the brave men who've led them. One particular work shows Orbán himself delivering a speech to the masses. As the opposition search for their own icon, this ditty, called I Don't Like the System, has become an anthemic battle cry for the anti-Orbán movement.